We are live.
Hey everybody, welcome to the GitPOAP Community Call number 1. It's exciting to see everybody here, and I'm excited for what we have in store today with Wackerow here from the Ethereum.org team. I will do some quick intros before we get started. Welcome to the GitPOAP Community Call number 1. Comes here from the Ethereum.org team. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
Good, thanks. And introducing Nick Sorokish, who's running OBS and has planned this whole call. She's a relatively recent member of the GitPOAP team, but she's been around a couple of months now. We all know a couple of months in crypto is like a couple of years in the real world. So very much grateful to have her on the team. How are you doing, Nick Sorokish?
Doing really great. Really glad to be here.
Awesome. We are joined by a few other people on the GitPOAP team. We've got Kayla here.
Hey everyone, I'm Kayla. I'm the operations lead. Excited to be here.
And we've got Burrs, our back-end engineer.
Hey.
And we've got Tyler here, who's working on all sorts of stuff, full stack on the engineering side.
Hey.
Cool. So a little bit about why we're here today. Like we were discussing about how, so obviously GitPOAP we launched back in April, and we've onboarded now I think like 680 repos central to the Ethereum ecosystem. And we were sharing different ideas around how we can further support projects and also further build community around like open source development and like help people get involved in different projects and help projects get help where they need help. And also just give projects an opportunity to highlight like what they've been working on and showcase new features, talk about how they got where they got. So we thought maybe a community call would be a fun way to do this. And so this is sort of our first trial run. So thanks everybody for joining. And we're excited that Wackerow is here to talk a little bit about Ethereum.org and his experience with the team and kind of how they've gotten there. Before I pass it over to Nick Sorokish to interview him, not really interview, more of a casual conversation, I want to give a couple quick GitPOAP announcements based on some things that have happened on our side and that we're working on. I'm very excited to share, you guys I think probably saw the news a couple weeks ago that we just closed our seed round, which we're really excited to have the support of Libertas Capital and Inflection Capital to really just support us in building out the platform and recognizing contributions to different software projects and eventually like beyond software. And so we're excited that now we're going to really be able to bring this through to fruition and continue to build our team and add value to the ecosystem. So we have a bunch of information sort of on like next steps and our future vision and things on our Twitter. So if you want to take a look at that, our Twitter, we are at GitPOAP. I cannot type and talk at the same time. If you guys want to take a look there. A couple other things that are kind of coming down the pipeline for us. An integration that I'm super excited that is happening actually right now is with the Gitcoin team. And so Gitcoin Passport is a big project for Gitcoin right now. And it's basically around Sybil resistance and how can we have this sort of Sybil resistance Lego, meaning like a way to prove that somebody is a single human on chain. And contributing code to open source actually is like a pretty good proof of humanness in a sense. So we just got GitPOAPs. They just integrated GitPOAPs into the Gitcoin Passport Sybil resistance mechanism. So we're excited for that actually to be a part of this Sybil resistance for the next Gitcoin grants rounds. I think it's round 15 that starts in about a week. So we'll share more information on that, but your GitPOAPs are now giving you even more like utility in other places. And another thing that we announced with our funding a couple weeks ago is self-service onboarding for GitPOAP. So now there's an official way that you can actually go connect your GitHub account and you can request repos to be added to the queue. So in order to do that, you can go to gitpoap.io/onboard and you can submit your repos there. I'm going to see if I can post this in the YouTube chat. I don't know if I'll get banned for posting links. Hopefully that shows up. But yeah, that's a few updates from the GitPOAP side. And excited to share more so that as we do more community calls like this. But without further ado, I will pass it off to Nick Sorokish to interview Paul. And we are doing some interesting stuff. We're going to also have a POAP for this call and we are going to distribute that through Guild. So while you're listening, or hop on over to our Discord server, which is gitpoap.io/Discord, and there's a Join Guild channel. So just go ahead and click the Join Guild button, and we'll explain a few more details around what that will do for you a little bit later. But yeah, for now, I will pass it off to Nick Sorokich. Thanks so much for taking this on.
Yeah, first of all, I don't think your link showed up in the YouTube chat. It probably got banned. Second of all,
Oh, no.
I am a chicken with my head cut off because I am running this, like the software that runs the stream right now, and it is my first time ever running this, so bear with us. Paul
We're here for you.
Paul was actually a perfect person to be the first person that we brought on to the GitPOAP Community Call because I met him at ECC this year, and he is just a really, really chill guy. Hung out with him for a while. We really got along, and I'm really glad that you agreed to come on here. So, Paul, how did you come to Ethereum? I'm curious.
Ethereum specifically really started to get more involved after kind of the lockdown stuff happened in 2020. I was going through some career shifts myself and was getting more involved with coding and programming, and had already been kind of down the crypto rabbit hole a little bit a few years prior. So when everything started getting stirred up after the lockdown, that really sucked me right back in because I was looking for kind of a home in kind of the computer science space, and I really just have been in love with crypto already. Really fascinating topic in my opinion, and I felt like it offered a lot to the world in terms of what it could open up, and it just sent me down kind of an endless stream of rabbit holes. And
yeah,
here I am.
You and me both. Do you share what your field was before?
I typically don't, but I used to be an emergency room doctor. So this is a pretty big shift for me. I wanted something that was still kind of intellectually challenging, and I think I found it here. It's a lot different, but I find an enormous amount of satisfaction here.
It's pretty crazy. I came from science, and people seem to think that there's like this gigantic shift coming from environmental science to something like Ethereum. And I don't have like the energy to always explain this, but I do feel like they're both kind of working in public sectors. Like Ethereum is very much filled with people trying to make money, but it's also filled with its very base level is filled with people who build things because they want to see this succeed, and their primary goal is not necessarily like getting rich.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel like it's that far off. I don't feel like I made a very gigantic shift from environmental science to here. So how did you start getting involved in the website, ethereum.org?
So the website, this goes back to when I was starting to get involved also with like the ETH staker community. It was back 2020. Yeah, and I was looking at the like Onyx testnet, the Madasha testnet, these things starting to get more involved. It led me to stumbling into actually the Prismatic Labs repo with the Prism repo. And I've been focused more on front end type work. So I took a look at their web user interface and tried to get a couple little commits in there, something, this was very early days for me, and wound up getting some stuff pulled in. Thank you to Raul over there who helped kind of guide me through, give me some recommendations on some things, and I tuned some things up. But that kind of started the ball rolling for me in terms of open source contributions. Some folks early on in this journey for me had recommended GitHub, use GitHub, code in public, and try and put yourself out there, because that basically builds a resume, gives you real world experience, diving into repos that you've never seen before and trying to get some things done. So that was where I started, and they had a lot going on. The web UI wasn't like the top priority for them at the time, for sure. So I kind of transitioned, that kind of opened the door a little bit, and then I stumbled on the ethereum.org repo. Realized there were some small things, some issues that were listed that I felt, okay, I think I can tackle this. And started really small. And eventually Sam Richards on the team, he, it caught his eye, I guess. We started talking. He was kind of asking, who are you? What are you doing? And it kind of steamrolled from there, where gradually, I was just trying to contribute every single day in some form. like I said before, was a form to me of learning, growing my resume, putting my work out there, and it all. I felt like it worked pretty well overall, I gotta say. So I've been with a team now since January last year, so over a year and a half.
It's really crazy. I have always been like a proponent of open source software. My dad was really into Linux and like open source projects when I was growing up, and I did not realize until I started like getting into Web3 how welcoming projects are to you, just like going into their GitHub and being like, I think this would make it better. You would think that people would have like this sense of territorialness over their projects, but people literally are so grateful when you learn how to use GitHub. You figure out like the right etiquette to do it, and you make pull requests. It's really crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely love like the sharing environment of this space. I feel like I've connected really well with it. I love the idea that, like you said, you could be in touch with a project within minutes. You could hop into their Discord, you could hop into their GitHub. If you see something going on, you can post issues and feedback. And stuff actually happens from that. It's pretty cool. Like everyone can kind of have a say. Like you said, it's just kind of learning how to use those tools.
And it makes you, I don't know, it makes you feel like close to the project. One of my favorite open source projects is called AnonAddy. It like makes anonymized email addresses for you, which I guess iPhone now does anyway, which they probably stole from him, who knows. But I went on recently and I looked through his GitHub, and I noticed that he had the best docs ever, and he had just like answered every single question anybody could ask him about this. So I sent him some ETH, and he responded and was like, what was this for? Did you overpaid your monthly thing? And I was like, no, I just am really glad that you have amazing docs. Yeah, I really love the open source community. Were you at ethereum.org when they started issuing POAPs for contributions?
Yep. So when I joined, this was January 2021. It was me, Sam, and Ryan basically were the core three. Ryan was a designer, Sam was the main dev. And being part of the ETH staker community prior to this, there were obviously a lot of POAPs flowing around. That was where I was exposed to it. I got to, eventually met Patricio out at ETHCC last year and everything, but they'd always been on my mind. I found them really interesting, and especially in a land where, we had pretty high gas prices. This was an alternative that could help kind of get people interested in this stuff and experience it a little bit without necessarily having to worry about gas or ETH or anything like that. So I felt like it was a nice project that helped kind of onboard a different cohort of people and could be used for some really interesting things, especially, little motivators. And I worry that it's too motivating sometimes because, as we all know, there's quite a bit of POAP farmers out there, which really does, cause some issues overall.
We have a POAP farmer in this call right now. This is actually why we have Fizz in this call, is because he's a good example of a POAP farmer.
For the record, I did forget to introduce Super Fizz, who is I didn't forget, it was intentional because he's a POAP farmer and we didn't want to give him too much. But Super Fizz from the eStaker community that clearly has a lot of overlapping, everything that Paul's talking about, and Nix and I are pretty involved in there. So yeah, Super Fizz is here too, in case anybody hasn't seen him.
Anybody in the YouTube chat, if you haven't heard of Super Fizz yet, raise your hand. We're going to get no hands raised.
So yeah. Early on, POAPs were definitely on my mind when I was getting more involved with the Ethereum.org repo. We had it's called an all contributors bot. We still have it. And when people make contributions, especially if they're new, like it's somewhat of a manual process, but we try to add them onto this list and say, hey, this contributor did this thing related to code or just an idea or design. And I found that was a nice little thing for myself. It was good little feedback when I was getting going. It was something to kind of look at and some mini goals you could set, like, I want to try to achieve that, And those small things, I felt like that's what POAP really represented. That's his chance where we can reward people for these little contributions. What I thought was cool with the GitHub tie-in was just that you have this commit log, you have this history of all these things. They're tied to identifiers. And, one of the hardest parts about POAP is the distribution, as we just alluded to. So having this kind of evidence of work that you could point to, and then use that as your evidence of your proof of attending something or doing something. So I felt like these were a nice way to just give back to some of the community members who are helping out.
And how have they been working out so far for?
Pretty well. We could get some of the other guys on here at some point to give some of the numbers maybe, but yeah, they've definitely overall been, I would say, a success. I feel like they might have slowed down a little bit in the last couple months. I'm not sure why, but overall, yeah, I think they've been pretty successful. We try to do them for the community calls as well. We've expanded it to non-coding things as well. I know you folks are trying to do more with that. So we try to extend it to the crowd-in translators. There's an enormous translation program that also is part of the Ethereum.org efforts, trying to translate everything into as many languages as possible, basically. And we have a lot more contributors overall on that side of things than we do on GitHub. So we tried to tie it in with that as well and get people a little, these little POAP tokens to reward them for that as well.
I love it. We are having that conversation over at GitPOAP right now about how to award GitPOAPs to people who aren't software contributors, because that's such a small slice of the population where lots of people have contributed, like community stewardship, translations. Sometimes people are the people who produce memes every single day, and creating a community is a really valuable part. So we're having that conversation. I think Colfax has had that conversation with quite a few projects about exactly who we would be rewarding. Colfax, you want to chime in at all?
Yeah, so it's an active conversation, like recognizing non-software contributions. I actually was just meeting with Joshua with Ethereum.org around a big portion of your contributors are actually translating the website, which has a really good impact in terms of like making it more accessible to more people. And we're exploring ways to possibly award POAPs to them, give POAPs to them, and many different types of contributions. So like, it's interesting because sometimes we'll talk to maintainers and they'll wonder like, oh, like so-and-so, like this project manager, somebody that's like organizing all of us, who's so crucial to the team, doesn't actually have a GitPOAP. And so help like figuring out ways that we can define. A big thing for us is like verifiability of contributions. And a big thing that we're working on is like, how do we issue GitPOAPs for many different types of contributions, but still keep it like verifiable?
For sure. Yeah, I see that. That's basically why we started with just commits and just devs, because that was by far the easiest. Obviously, when you get into even something like design, you've got a Figma file where potentially multiple people are working on it. Who did what? It's not always super clear. It can be challenging. I would love to see more solutions for that in the future. Yeah.
How do you do all of the POAPs that you guys are giving out, like the not GitPOAPs? Do you guys have a manual review for every single person who gets one of those?
Pretty much, yeah. So when somebody is a new contributor on GitHub, that is when it's the easiest, because it just says right on their account, new contributor basically. So when we merge in any of those PRs, we typically, part of the response is, hey, head into our Discord and you can go to the POAP channel and just drop a link to your submission basically. And then, yeah, somebody will just take a look at that, make sure that, it's an active, an actual submission. And similar with the language, the translations, we just check crowd in and send them the link through there.
Nice. Are the translations all done on GitHub? Are they submitted on GitHub?
No, so the translations are all done through crowdin.com. It's a crowdsourcing translation thing. So we start there, that we have people who help get the initial round of translations done in general. And then we have a final review process that we do pay for, but this does help kind of reduce costs overall, distribute it to the community, allow more people to get involved this way.
Nice. Yeah, we're like wondering exactly who to expand it to, because I know a lot of people are going to want POAPs when it comes down to it, and you have to stop somewhere, because somewhere is not going to be, there's going to be a line somewhere of like what makes a valuable contribution worthy of a GitPOAP and what degrades the value of a GitPOAP.
For sure. Yeah. And every repo is going to be a little different, or every project. A project like ours, I mean, there's to a degree a goal to almost become like Wikipedia or the MDN of Ethereum, where this is a very large site that might be only run by a few people overall, but it's very community driven. So for a site like this, we're going to get naturally a lot more contributions than maybe Prism, or Lodestar, one of the core clients. It's going to be a little bit tougher in general to get a PR merged into something like that, where security and everything's much more at risk versus a front end website, of course. But
is everybody who works for the Ethereum.org like anybody who are there full-time employees at Ethereum.org?
There are, yeah. I mean, it's all funded through the EF. The Ethereum.org team is now 10 of us. A couple of them have some split duties overall between different teams. But yeah, overall, everyone's pretty much full-time on our team.
Split duties. I feel like that's the Ethereum way.
Mm-hmm.
I think Fizz has no jobs technically, and Fizz has lots of jobs actually.
It's somewhere between 0 and 100 jobs. That's how I like to say it.
Colfax and I are both part of GitPOAP and ETHStaker, and they both feel like full-time jobs when I'm working on them.
Yep. It's fun. It's hard to pick just one thing to focus on because there's so much exciting stuff and so much stuff that's like adding value. And like ETHStaker is where I got my origins, and then got really in deep, like figure out how we can build GitPOAP to support multiple projects. But I really love staking too. And so it's really symbiotic, to be honest. Like we've onboarded a bunch of staking projects and staking related things. And so that's why I'm excited about building something that's so ingrained into the community that it is something that you can also work on other things while you're also working on GitPOAP. But then there's a million things to do. So I don't always have time to do the fun staking stuff all the time anymore.
That's like we talked about before, just kind of the sharing nature of the space. It's not hard to slip into another project and maybe give some feedback or talk to some people, but at the same time, it's not hard to get distracted from what you were doing. So.
Yeah. Something that really drove home to me a couple of weeks ago is I was talking to Patricio of the Nomic Foundation, who works on Hard Hat, and he was telling me that after integrating GitPOAP, they've seen a tangible uptick in meaningful contributions coming in. And I've heard that from a few other projects. And I was just like, that's awesome. Mission number one accomplished.
Can I say why that happens?
Why?
It's because POAP makes you more of who you are. Those people had the contributions inside them the whole time, but until there was a POAP for it, they didn't really have the motivation to put it up. So it made them more of who they are.
There's the double, it also works because people, for some reason, don't feel welcome into contributing until there's some prize and they're like, we want you to contribute so much that we'll give you something for doing it.
I thought you were going to say double entendre, and I'm like, I don't think that's appropriate.
There could be. I'm sure we could find one. Today's a day for inappropriate jokes in Ethereum.
People don't always feel comfortable contributing to some of these things. So having that little carrot there can help just at least answer that question of, yes, you're welcome to contribute.
And an explicit, welcoming and encouragement, we will give you this if you contribute. And then furthermore, before GitPOAP, I would be reading docs sometimes and I'd see a typo and I'd usually collect 3 typos to finally then submit a pull request to fix it, because it just seemed like it was just a little bit more extra hurdle. And so it's exciting to see that it's working, even because even a typo fix is meaningful. And that's one of the next things that we're working on. So I guess a little tease looking forward is, how do you measure the magnitude of somebody's contributions? And it's very hard to do at scale in an automated manner, but we can start experimenting with some things. And so that's what we're working on soon. But then the second you create incentives, then people's behavior will follow the incentives. There's a famous adage, I don't know who it's attributed to, but so being careful too, and how we define what's meaningful, because we want to make sure we're still focusing on rewarding the most meaningful things for projects as opposed to some arbitrary metric. So stay tuned for an open discussion on some of that stuff soon.
My first
sure.
GitPOAP that I became eligible for was in Rocket Pool, and it's because I was going through the glossary, and I don't remember why I was going through it, but I noticed one of the definitions included the phrase streamlined beef, and I was like, am I like really behind? Do I just not know what that means? So I sent it into the Discord a bunch of times, and people were like, wow, is this a thing? And then like 3 months later, I went and checked, and it was still there, so I tagged some people on it. 2 months later, I was like, you know what? I guess I'm going to go fix it, because if nobody else is going to fix it, can I?
Okay, true confession, there was a $500 bounty if Nick Zorikish pumped Rocket Pool on this call, and so congratulations, she earned it.
They have extremely out-of-date docs. That's apparently the shill that I'm going for.
For those not aware of Superphysic's sense of humor, we're all fans of Rocket Pool because it brings decentralized to staking, but I'm pretty sure there was not an actual bounty.
Hey, you don't know that.
Yeah, you're on the hook for it, Colfax. Don't act like it doesn't exist now.
Opening to sponsors for... No, I'm just kidding.
Paul, who does the designs for Ethereum.org? Ethereum.org has like a super cohesive theme on it.
So there are two current designers, Nuno and Jakob, are the two guys on our team who are in charge of all the design stuff. Before them, we had kind of a dead space, actually, where Ryan, our previous designer, who left for greener pastures, hey, Ryan, we had kind of a dead zone in between where Ryan had left us, fortunately, with a lot of suggestions and ideas. This is how you can handle new components, whatnot. But he had done he was the only designer from the earlier days, like going back to the more modern form of the website, if you will, which started in 2019. So Ryan definitely up front. And then more recently, though, over the past 6 months or so, we've got two new awesome designers who have been killing it. There's been a lot of work done there too, as far as trying to work on like a design system, something to make it more structured, make it easier for people to contribute as well. So definitely look forward to more of that.
Is this the design? I'm not like super up to date on my roles in something like this. Are we talking about design team, or is the illustration team different, or is that the same thing?
So the illustrations are typically, we go out and buy them, basically.
Oh, nice. Okay.
We find people in the community, actually, and I don't know all their names off the top of my head, but on the assets page, /assets, ethereum.org/assets, you should be able to take a look, and it highlights the different illustrations and the different artists.
Maybe we need to hunt down these designers and get them POAPs.
I'm sure they'd appreciate it.
Nice, I totally agree.
I went to your guys' community call last week. You guys have a ton of new things that you're implementing, right?
A lot, for sure.
It looks like a lot. Do you want to tell us about one of them?
Oh, gosh. Well, that was one of them, the design system thing. That's one thing that's going on. Certainly one of the more timely things right now is trying to get the whole site prepped for the merge. There's this upgrade occurring in a couple of weeks that we're trying to get ready for.
Well, I've heard of that. I think I've heard of that.
What's the merge?
So it's been a bit of auditing, the ethereum.org site as well as, the Launchpad site as well, and trying to keep things up to date, trying to get people prepared, trying to notify people, trying to update the docs, pull in any docs that may be missing, like gaps in our docs, doing our best to try to get the site ready. So when the merge happens, we can kind of flip that switch, and, because a lot of things are going to be updated.
Nice. You guys have, you guys have like a quiz system that's going on there, like a test your knowledge thing?
That is another epic that's being worked on right now. Yeah, it's like learning quizzes to try to help reinforce people's knowledge, small quizzes potentially kind of scattered throughout different places. Final designs are not necessarily done yet, but the idea being some way to help test people's knowledge as they're looking through the site, even if think like Coinbase Earn style, where it's just like, here, read these couple sentences and then answer a question that is very obvious if you read it all, kind of thing.
So if I go through all of the questions to get them all right, am I going to get a POAP?
Probably.
Which one of us is the farmer?
What?
Again,
I was asking for Fizz. I knew Fizz wanted to know.
Oh, I got it. Asking on my behalf. Thank you.
I was, yeah.
For the record, I really like this. So Magdalena posted in our Discord a recollection of like a previous conversation we had. I think it was maybe in one of the POAP community calls where we shifted the term, like, so farmer with good intentions, meaning like somebody that really loves POAPs, is a POAP gardener. And I like that because I feel like there's a distinction between somebody earnestly seeking out earning POAPs versus somebody who's like more disearnestly, is that a word? Seeking POAPs without an earnest like effort to actually participate in what it takes to earn the POAP. A cultivator, another good way of saying it. One good idea that you've had, Fizz.
Yeah, I feel like being a cultivator, a gardener, and a farmer, like just whatever. Like I'm good.
It's the difference. Yeah, it's the difference between a factory farmer and a regular farmer. That's credit to Burrs there.
Yeah.
You work
I'm
for
just
your
an
POAPs,
organic
but if
farmer,
the free ones
okay?
come up, that's fine.
Anybody know off the top of your head how many POAPs you have?
Not without looking.
I did look at
Let's
yours.
pull up.
Wait.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
I think I have 127.
Oh, can you enable screen sharing real quick?
Sure can. Done.
Amazing. Who do we want to know, Paul?
Yeah, let's see Paul's.
So Paul is 9 GitPOAPs, not bad.
9 GitPOAPs.
And 275 POAPs. I see you have the one from Ben Edgington's 100th issue. That's an amazing POAP.
You're beating me so far. I think I have 150 something. And also, this is a good time to mention that Ben Edgington one, all the proceeds went to this run that Left Harris from Rocky is doing. And Fizz, do you actually remember what the cause is there?
Yeah, it's children's heart disease research. Which, it's so funny. I'm like, what could be more valid? It's so valid it almost doesn't seem real. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But no, Left Harris is a very well regarded member of the community, and so I was really happy when Ben suggested that as a cause for that POAP. And we don't normally, well, we used to not do any kind of like fund requirement for the POAPs, but while we don't have Sybil resistance, it turns out to be a good spam resistance tool. So we'll probably be doing that for the foreseeable future.
So today,
And actually, yeah, go ahead.
So today's POAP is going to have the same recipient for funds. Left Harris's run that benefits children's heart
diseases and things. Yeah. And research for it. We actually haven't told Left Harris yet, but we're going to be collecting the funds. So we'll talk about the POAP distribution shortly. But yeah, we're going to be collecting the funds from that and then donating it to Left Harris's fundraiser for fighting children's heart disease for the Berlin Marathon he's running pretty soon. Left Harris is also very, very kind human, very good contributor, but also an incredible marathon runner. It's quite remarkable. If you follow him on Twitter, you'll see him posting about different runs and stuff. It's very impressive.
Different runs and mostly birds.
Yes, and birds. How does that guy have time?
How does that guy have time? Stuff? That's a really good question.
I'm always curious how people have time outside of Ethereum. Like, what else is there? I don't know anything else.
And he's earned 11 GitPOAPs. Like, that's pretty impressive.
I had time for things outside.
He met me at ECC. Sorry, go ahead.
I had time for things outside of work before my work was Ethereum. My hobby used to be Ethereum, and then I did this stupid thing and I made it my work, and now it's my hobby and my work.
It sounds like you've got your bases covered. You don't need anything else. Like, you're set.
Why? I'm a one-trick pony. Why would I need anything else?
I may toss a question out here if I could. I'm curious if what you guys have discussed about potential ways to kind of maybe tier POAPs depending on how significant a contribution was. Maybe it's too early in the conversation, but I was definitely thinking about it in terms of, we've got like Gitcoin Passport, we've got these other mechanisms we're trying to improve Sybil resistance. And yeah, a solid commit that, some serious code in there, that's probably going to be pretty decent to identify someone as unique. But going back, somebody mentioned like the typo fixes. Typo fixes can be really helpful. They really can be, but they're much smaller, they're much easier, and they're potentially easier to then Sybil attack, where you could, find 5 typos and create 5 different accounts, and now you've got 5 POAPs and your 5 people. So I'd love to hear if you have discussed anything on how you've considered maybe tiering these or analyzing the data to put some weight behind different things. Because at the same token, a 1-line change could break or significantly fix a bug. So
it's true, and that's like a really good point. And I would say we want to start small and sort of like get feedback and iterate as quickly as we can. And the challenge with we're basically building an immutable like on-chain record of contribution. It's very hard to iterate when you're building an immutable record. But what we are going to do is we're going to start experimenting with sort of like some off-chain metadata, and then we're going to eventually, once we refine sort of the actual like determination of what is the most important, then we can do stuff that's more permanent. I would say a couple things we're thinking about. One, we're like really looking to the community and looking at how other people are doing this. So like an inspiration for us is truthfully the ethereum.org POAPs, and I chatted with a few people on your team, Paul, around the logic behind awarding a single contributor, like single PR contributor, a 3-time contributor, 5-time, and 10-time, I think you guys do. And so the logic behind that, granted, that is just number of PRs, which people then could, like, I guess, split up work across PRs, which is something like we don't want to dictate like the incorrect behavior, but like looking at PR count is interesting. Something else we're looking at is valuable submitted issues that end up being worked on like through a PR. So it's very cheap to be able to submit an issue, but like if you actually put thought into an issue and it actually ends up getting worked on and gets like closed out by a PR, that could be another like strong proof of personhood thing. And then also, I mean, like recognizing that like some levels of meaning can really only be detected by like a human and like by a maintainer. And so maybe there would be at some point like a way for humans to like sort of add some information about it. But again, like we want to keep things verifiable, and we definitely don't want to add extra work for maintainers. And so that's why it's sort of this catch-22. So I would say those are some things that we're thinking about and we're going to begin experimenting with. And long before we sort of set things in stone, we're going to iterate and sort of listen to community feedback around how everybody analyzes the meaningfulness of contributions in their projects. And we're excited to sort of engage in a public conversation around it all.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it makes me think about there's a lot of kind of subjectivity when it comes to these different things. And what's great about issuing a GitPOAP for any commit is it takes all that subjectivity out of it. Makes it very objective. This is your identifier. You had this commit merged into this repo. Done. Very binary. But yeah, once you get into like, well, how impactful was that? Yeah. That's where I think, this space struggles in general, because it starts to add on that layer of, well, it's kind of your opinion versus my opinion sort of thing. And I guess I see it as probably having to head in the direction of, attestations. Somebody, I make an attestation that somebody had a valuable contribution, and that's only as valuable as who I am, kind of thing. And if other people attest to the same thing, it increases the weight of that and stuff. So
makes total sense. Like on that exact note, like I would say our primary focus right now is bringing data on chain and making it easier to digest and use, as opposed to evaluating that data. And so maybe we would just bring the data on chain and identify like what metrics are useful to bring on chain and for people to like earn GitPOAPs for. And then like the consumers of GitPOAPs can then determine what's meaningful based on like what we're making available. Yeah. So I think that that's also like probably a better approach.
I really like the way that Passport does that, Gitcoin Passport. They make all the data available, and then their idea is that any project that has a stamp on there, the project that is using Passport can determine what weight they want to give that stamp.
That could be interesting, like building out a similar model to that, where we can have like a GitPOAP consumption layer where people can plug in different what's it called, like formulas or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think that some projects would be like, well, I don't want number of lines because that is very gameable. I want one that has to do with like how many connected issues it had, or how many consecutive months out of the year this person has contributed, because it shows consistency.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like any sort of like metric based on the complexity of the code is so easily gamed, because people can just add complexity or remove it very easily. So this is definitely a difficult problem.
Yeah, and anything's going to be gamed. Anything, especially anything that's like open source or like people are transparent about, they're going to go look through and see exactly what they need to satisfy to be able to get it. Like, I don't think that people knew when they were first onboarding onto GitPOAP last week when we like released the onboarding form. I don't think people knew that there was like a human manually reviewing it, and so I got one that had like some sort of bot that was auto committing into the repo, and I just looked at it and I was like, this is really obvious to a human, but I see why you think that like 500 commits in here in the last 2 weeks looks like you're busy.
You know, I really think of it as a kind of a give and a take. Like as a repo owner who is willing to engage with GitPOAP, the give is that, you know, you're gonna get a little bit more traffic, a little bit more spam than you would have preferred. But the thing that you receive are like these new community members who are willing and engaged, and some of them will be very valuable and stick with you. So like on balance, I really feel like it's an extremely, it's a great opportunity for maintainers to onboard new people to the platform. And the expense is just, you know, having to deal with a little bit of junk, which, you know, not too bad.
Honestly, I'm also kind of excited about the amount of gaming that's happening really early in the Web3 system ecosystem, because it means that we have to build systems that fight against it. And I'm really hoping that Web3 is a place where there's less spam than, I don't know, how many text messages have you gotten in the last week from random people?
But, you know, as
seriously,
I kind of hate this, but as like an economic platform, I imagine getting to a place where there will be some kind of stake to get a GitPOAP. And that is when you submit a PR, you put up a stake or a bounty that says, you know, this is a legit submission. And then you get it back if it's legit. And if it's not legit, then you were a spammer, and it's the cost of having to vet that.
Oh, I like that.
That's a cool idea, yeah. Because like, at some point, it's so far, I'm actually glad that it hasn't become too big of an issue. And like real people like are actually contributing meaningful things. And we're working on guides to like help people learn what they can do to contribute meaningfully and things. But it is going to be something that we'll address. And the idea of like staking or having somebody have to put something into contributing, or even just like proposing a change, is an interesting mechanism.
Nice. Paul, do you have anything that stands out to you as like something that Ethereum.org like could desperately use at this point? Like what do they need the most?
Good question. Overall, more manpower in a sense. Like we need more and more people. We've got so many things on the docket. A large part of our efforts recently has been to try as best as possible getting the community involved. Pablo, one of the guys on our team, one of the main devs, he's been doing some refactors for the site, for example, and it was like we refactored the whole site to TypeScript, just small example. And with that, we didn't do it all at once. We kind of harnessed the power of the community. We put up some issues to say, hey, like if you want to get involved with this, if you want to help us out, please go here. Here are the instructions and everything. So more of that is what we need, more organizing and working with the community to try to tackle these larger scale epics and stuff that we can't necessarily just do on our own. It's a tough question though. We need more of everything.
GitPOAP has been trying to be like a good example of how to successfully use GitPOAPs, and so we are brainstorming this week on how to like we have a big backlog of things to do. Like we don't have an infinite amount of engineers, and we have a lot of things that we're building out on the go. And so we are brainstorming like how to create issues right now, because we've gotten some feedback from some projects that are like, hey, we would really like a different style of badge in the the GitHub, and our engineers are like, yeah, that sounds great. That is so much lower priority than all the other things that we have right now. We would love to do that. But so we want to like create more issues and create more ways to like lead the horse to water, tell people exactly how they can contribute. And so it's useful like knowing what projects need in order to successfully communicate to both projects and contributors how to successfully work together.
I mean, also tooling, stuff like what you're doing right here, trying to develop better tools to help encourage people and motivate people. Anything like that to motivate, educate, get people involved, and try to tackle these things together, because many of these tasks we're trying to do are not really built for one person or even a small team.
You're muted, Colfax.
Yeah, that's the beauty of open source. And like, I love to see, even just like last week, somebody who goes by, let's see, Darwin, I think on Discord, built a cool way to visualize GitPOAP collections, like in somebody's personal website. And this person was working on another project called, I think, Decent Land, that they were working on integrating GitPOAPs into it. And they're like, wow, this would be a cool feature to showcase POAPs. And they actually created a totally new like open source repo and created that. So I'm excited to see like, one, like we can put more issues, like open up people to contribute, but then also just seeing like what people build on top of it as we sort of build kind of like another Lego of contribution and reputation in Web3.
Cool. Do we want to, Burrs, do you want to try to demonstrate how to collect this POAP that we have?
Before we do that, I meant to play, speaking of community contributions, I meant to play an awesome video that somebody created in our Discord, and I want to share it with everybody. We do have a memes channel in our Discord, and it hasn't gotten a lot of action just yet, but I'm letting you know that I would love to see more people like create different videos and memes and things. And so hold on just a second. Let me play this. This is pretty cool. I'm not experienced with playing sound through Zoom, so I'm not going to be able to play the sound, but I just want to play these two fun little videos that Sam Graphico created. So let's see here. This is video number 1 up here.
That's awesome.
Nice.
There's a really cool audio component. I'll figure out how to play that next time. And then we've got this other one, which I think is really awesome too. Oh no.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, so if anybody's interested in getting involved in GitPOAP, keep an eye on the issues on GitHub, but also like we'd love for you to just come join the Discord and create fun memes and videos and stuff. Like, yeah, we want to just grow the community and just have more people be involved with what we're doing. So if you're interested, just jump on in and start throwing out some ideas. And now I will pass it off to Burrs to talk through what we're doing with Guild, as well as the POAP distribution for the call.
Yeah, so we're going to be using Guild for future things. So there may be like interesting things in the future that you might be able to get access to if you sign up for our Guild. But currently right now, the way to join the Guild, and I'll share my screen. So if you go over to our Discord, there's this new channel called, where is it? Under General, called Join Guild. If you press this button, it will take you to Guild. So since I'm already technically in here, you'll see this page. Basically, if you haven't already signed in with your Ethereum wallet, it'll have you sign a signature, basically just to confirm that you are the address that you are. But then you'll be able to join this, and you'll see that you could have the member role. And Guild should send you a link at that point to say essentially that you are now a member of the GitPOAP Guild. But without much further ado, I'm just going to hide my screen for a second, and I'm going to send the POAP to the call. Okay, so now you should be able to see in a little bit, it should post in this Discord channel in the Join Guild that you can claim a POAP. Click the Claim POAP after joining Guild. Oh, no. Interesting. So I've seen this happen in other channels, unfortunately. So let me
getting the same as well.
Stop sharing. I think I can find a link. Give me a sec.
I'll just keep hammering it for good measure.
Okay. So I'm going to post this in the Join Guild chat for right now. But essentially, if you go to this link, it'll let you skip that join button. So I think there must be some issue with Guild right now. So I'll start sharing again just to complete the demo.
So cool that you
So
have
after you
backup.
open that link that I just posted in the Join Guild, you should come to here. It says, woohoo, you can claim this. So essentially you could claim. Now you can choose to either pay about $1.50 in ETH or $1.50 in Matic. And this is of course going to Left Terrace's marathon funds. So once you've chosen which you want to pay with, you can sign on your wallet.
I just want to clarify, the money is actually not going to Left Terrace. He's running for the Children's Heart Disease.
Yes.
Just for anybody who just tuned in.
Oh my
He's
God.
actually been very passionate about that. If you go find him on Twitter, you can find that he offers his own POAP for people who donate directly to the effort. Now, it
Yes.
you would if you're going to go through the hassle of contacting him and using his time, it would probably be like a substantial donation, but it is something that he's offering. And I don't. Please do not go and
Fuck him
storm
for a
him because
POAP.
Yeah. I would recommend, if you're interested in donating, again, definitely reach out to him. Just so you know, before anybody notices and thinks there's any funny business, we are taking the money on an account that we control from this POAP, and then we'll post a public link for our official donation. We didn't want 1,000 different transactions coming into Left Terraces. We need to make sure we donate in the right way. So we'll be sending the money in a batch once the POAP minting is over to Left Terrace. And he doesn't know this yet, but I'm sure he'll be excited to find out once we're done.
So
I got my POAP.
Awesome. And I think we'll probably leave this open for like another, 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Hey,
that
I have an
sounds good.
idea.
What's up?
Do you guys know about Giveth? Giveth.io. It's a program by Riff Green, but that would be a great place to go and just sort of look for places who have posted an ETH address and they're looking to receive donations. Because I know a lot of times when we're doing these things, we don't want to receive it. We just need spam resistance or symbol resistance. And that would be a good place maybe to find opportunities.
I think that's a great idea. Especially because those people are not actually looking to they're not asking for donations from calls like this. We would just be basically
which is
bombing
how
them with
we
money.
like to do it. That's right.
Yeah.
Paul, thanks for stopping by. Superfizz, thanks for hanging out. It was really nice to get to know some more stuff about ethereum.org and about you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It was nice being here.
Yeah.
Of course, we'd love
Always
to
good to
host
see you, Paul.
the ethereum.org team, a bigger team at some point too.
Yeah.
That'd be fun to do a wider call.
Let's do it.
Nice. Amazing work hosting Xorkish too. Thanks for taking us on. And with the OBS.
Hey.
We should make a POAP for her hosting. It's a joke.
We should indeed.
Okay, I'm stopping the stream now.